First thing we want to do is write our given. So we have right here. Okay, we have 17 moles of N2. I don't want moles of N2, so I'm going to write it down here. What can I change it to? Well, I want O2, so I can go from moles of one thing to moles of another, so I will do that. Now, if my fraction has two sets of moles, I can't just use one, so I'm going to go up to figure out how many. Here's my N2. There's two of them. And here's my O2. There's no number in front, so it's 1. So I end up with 17 divided by 2. So my first step here is I'm going to write the given. 20 liters of O2, that's a volume. I don't want liters of O2, so I'll put it down there. I just copy the units, never the numbers. The only thing I can change liters to is moles. And if I'm in O2, I have to have O2 up here as well. My fraction only has 1 mole in it, so I'm going to use number 1. My liters, always 22.4, that number never changes. I'm going to cross off my like units. Now I'm in moles of O2. Am I done? Well, I want moles of N2, so I'm not done. So I'm going to take my units here, put them down here, and I'm trying to change to moles of N2, so I can always change from one chemical to another. I have 2 moles in my fraction, so I can't use 1. N2, how many? I go up here. Anytime I have a mole to mole, I use my equation. O2, there's a 1 because there's no number. Cross off my like units, and I'm going to multiply across. 20 times 2 divided by 22.4. I have moles of N2, that's what the question asks, so I know I'm done. Alright, so my given right here, 100 grams. This is ammonium nitrate. Ammonium nitrate. Doesn't matter, but I write the given. That's grams. I don't want grams of NH4NO3, so I put it down here. The only thing I can change grams to is moles. And grams to moles has to be the same substance. Top and bottom have to be the same substance, unless I'm doing moles to moles. Alright, there's 1 mole in the fraction, so I'm going to use number 1. My grams, I go to the periodic table. I have 2 nitrogens. I have 1 here and 1 here. I have 4 hydrogens. There's 4 right there. And I have 3 oxygens. I go to my periodic table. I look up nitrogen. It tells me it's 14. I look up hydrogen. It tells me it's 1. I look up oxygen. It tells me it's 16. And so I'm going to multiply across and add those 3 things together. That's my molar mass. I'm going to cross off my like units. Now I'm in moles of NH4NO3. I'm not done because I want liters of N2. So I'm going to carry this down here. Kind of messy today. Okay, I'm in moles of NH4NO3, but I want moles of something else. So I can always change a mole to mole ratio, moles of one thing to moles of another. I'm looking for N2. My numbers, I have 2 moles, so I have to go to my equation. N2 has 2. NH4NO3 has 2 as well. Cross off my like units. Alright, so I'm in moles of N2. The question says liters of N2, so I know I have to keep going. I take the unit, put it down here. And from moles, I can change to liters. It's always the same chemical. 1 mole in the fraction means I put a 1 in front. My liters, it's always 22.4. cross off my like units. I'm going to take everything on the top. So I have 100 times 2 times 22.4. I want to put that in parentheses in my calculator. I'm going to divide that by 80 times 2, which I also need to put in my calculator, and that gives me my answer. I'm going to start by writing my given, which again, just like the last problem, is 100 grams. I don't want grams, so I'm going to put my units on the bottom here. Okay, whatever was up here goes down here. My grams I can only change to one thing, and that's moles of the same stuff. It's always 1 mole because there's only 1 mole in my fraction. And my grams, if I add those up, I already did that on the last problem, so I'm just going to carry that forward. If you need to know how to do that, go to the last problem and look it up. Alright, I don't want moles of this stuff, so I got to keep going. So my units here, I carry down. I'm in NH4NO3, I want N2. So this is a good time. I can go from moles of one thing to moles of another. And I take the number from here. There's 2 of these. And there's 2 of these. So 2 to 2 ratio. Cross off my like units. I don't want moles of N2 though. I want grams of N2. So I need one more fraction. So I take my units given. And from moles I can go to grams. There's 1 mole in the fraction, so I put a 1 in front. For my grams, I look up nitrogen. There's 2 of them. On the periodic table it tells me it's 14. So I have 28 is my molar mass. Cross off my like units. Now I'm going to multiply everything on top. So 100 times 2 times 28 divided by 80 times 2. Use parentheses on your calculator and you'll get the right answer. Now I have 40 grams of O2. I don't want grams of O2, so I'm going to transfer the units down here. I can always change grams to moles. If I'm in grams of O2, I need moles of O2. In my fraction, I have the word mole once, so I put a 1. My grams, I look up oxygen. Okay, I have 2 of them. I look it up on the periodic table. It's 16. Whoops, that's a 32. I did it again. 32. Cross off my grams. So now I'm in moles of O2. I'm not done because I want grams of N2. Alright, so I'm going to take my units, put them down here. From O2 I can convert it to N2. That's a mole to mole ratio. My numbers, I have 2 moles, so I can't use 1 unless that's my equation number. So I go to N2, I look up here, that's going to tell me there's 2. And I go to O2, there's no number in front, so that means there's a 1. Cross off my like units. Alright, moles of N2, but I want grams of N2, so I got to keep going. So I transfer whatever's up here goes down there. And for moles I can certainly change it to grams. 1 mole in the fraction, so I put 1. My grams, I have 2 nitrogens. I look it up on the periodic table. It's 14. Cross off my like units. I'm in grams of N2. That's grams of N2. And I just need to multiply. So I take everything that's on the top and divide it by everything on the bottom. Alright, here I'm starting off with my given 35 moles of N2. I don't want moles of N2, so I put it down here. Let's see, I want O2, so I can go from here, I can go from moles to moles. So I can go out of N2 and into N2, out of N2 and into O2. 2 moles in my fraction, that means I go to my equation. Okay, there's a 1 in front of there, even though it's not written. And there's a 2 in front of my N2. Cross off my like units. Now I'm in moles of O2, but I want molecules of O2, so I got to keep going. I'm going to take the units. And from moles, I can certainly convert it to molecules. And for molecules, there's only 1 mole in the fraction, so I write 1. And molecules is always 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Alright, so to summarize, I have 35 times 6.02 divided by 2. I'll put that in my calculator and tack on my 10 to the 23rd. So I get 105 times 10 to the 23rd. Okay, proper scientific notation says I take this decimal, I move it over 2 spaces. This number just got smaller, so to compensate, this has to get larger. So I made that smaller by 2, this has to get larger by 2. So make sure you know how to answer both of those, or put both of those. Alright, now I got 17 grams of O2. I don't want grams of O2, so I'm going to put it down here. From grams, I can go to moles. 1 mole in my fraction, so I use 1. O2, I have 2 oxygens. I look up the periodic table, it's 16 grams each. Cross off my like units. I'm in moles of O2, but I want liters of N2, so I have to keep going. So whatever unit's here, go down here. Now from oxygen, I can change it into nitrogen. That's a mole-to-mole ratio. So I have 1 O2 for every 2 N2s. Cross off these because they're the same. Moles of N2, but I want liters, so I got to keep going. So I take my units, I put them down there, and I want liters. 1 mole in the fraction means I use the number 1. Liters, it's always 22.4. Cross off my like units. And then to summarize, everything on the top divided by everything on the bottom. Here I'm starting off with 350 grams. I don't want grams of that stuff. I do want moles. One mole in the fraction, so I use 1. My molar mass is 80. I did that in a previous problem, so go back to that one if you need to check it. I don't want moles of NH4NO3. I do want moles of N2. 2 N2s for every 2 NH4NO3s. And lastly, moles of N2 on the bottom, because I carry that forward. I want to change it to grams. I go to my periodic table, I add them up, and that's that.